Hi, I'm Jim Williams. I'm with the Department of Natural Resources here in the state of Nebraska, and I'm with the NeRAIN program. NeRAIN stands for the Nebraska Rainfall Information Network, NeRAIN. But we like to use the acronym as if it's a question. Have you gotten any rain lately? The NeRAIN program is a network of approximately 500 or more volunteers who go out after a storm, read their rain gauge, and upload that information to the internet. The information is very useful, used by persons wanting to know if they should irrigate more to wet their crops up or if they got enough rain. It is used for insurance purposes. It is used for flood mitigation, flood planning, just all kinds of useful purposes. It's used by the National Weather Service through the national program. You can use any rain gauge you want with the NeRAIN program, including tipping buckets and similar kinds of gauges. We consider any other gauge to be a non-standard gauge, and we strongly prefer they use the standard gauge, which is what comes available at no cost currently with the NeRAIN program. And that's been the case for 20 years now. The standard gauge is plastic, clear. It is 4 inches in diameter, and it has a funnel which reduces that down to go into the graduated cylinder, which is about 1 inch in diameter. It's not exact, but it is about 10 inches tall. And there are very few people who get confused by this, but basically, because you're shrinking down all the rain that landed in a 4-inch diameter circle into a 1 inch, it spreads out 1 inch of rain to fill that entire tube. So most people are clear on that, but that leads me to one of the 2 most common errors that we see with the rain gauge, and that is a decimal point error. Remember, something that looks like almost a foot tall is actually only 1 inch of rain as measured using this gauge. If it's half full, that's a 1/2 inch of rain. If only a little bit fell, the depth of just a few sheets of paper down here, it would look like a 1/2 inch, even though it's really 0.05 inches of rain. And sometimes people get confused and they report 0.05 as 0.5 inches of rain. So we ask folks to always use that check button on the NeRAIN website when they submit it, and you'll see the little graphic fill up with blue color signifying your water to the depth, and it should look a lot like your rain gauge did when you first walked up to it every morning at around 7 a.m. When you walk up to your rain gauge after you've had some precipitation overnight, and in fact last night I did measure 48 hundredths at my gauge. We filled this for demonstration purposes just a little bit more than that, but you can see that the water is only in the inner graduated cylinder. There is no water that has spilled outside. So for demonstration purposes, we have filled it to just over a 1/2 inch. You'll see that there are water droplets around inside the inner cylinder. That can really be ignored. You can work really hard to get those down so you can measure them, and it really won't make much of a difference. You can also see, if you do a close-up, that the water climbs the side of the walls just a little bit, and it forms a U shape on the surface. The proper way to read this gauge is the bottom of that meniscus, the bottom of that U shape. And in this case, we are right at 0.49 inches of water. Okay, after looking closely at that first reading, it was right at 0.5 inches, meaning that if we did not have that graduated cylinder in there, it would have filled the large 4-inch tube to about 1/2 inch. In this case, we've added a little bit more water, and so you can see that the inner cylinder is full, but we also have just a little bit sloshing around below. Therefore, we know that this measurement is going to be very close to 1.1, 1.2. Let's take a look and see. First of all, we carefully lift out. If you're going to spill anything, make sure you spill it while it's still in the tube. And in this case, in fact, I'm going to spill a little bit out to get it down to exactly, a little bit lower than 1 inch of water. So I've got 0.99 inches there. And I'm going to pour this off back into the container. See if we can mostly get it into our water bottle. Now, very often, as you are pouring back and forth, pouring around, you're going to have several measurements, and it's very hard to remember exactly what you had and add them all up in your head. I strongly urge folks to take pad and paper and to write it down. So I'm going to write down 0.99 for that first reading. That water is out. Our inner cylinder has a few drops in it, but mostly it's empty. And now we're going to pour in the rest of the water out of our 4-inch tube. And I am now reading that as 0.18. So we have almost 1¼ inches, 1.2 inches of total rainfall in this fake hypothetical measurement. And that is how we measure rainfall with the standard gauge in the NeRAIN program. After that, make sure that you reassemble your rain gauge and leave it ready to capture more water for measurement tomorrow morning. After you've gone out to your rain gauge and measured the amount of rainfall in it, you're going to want to go to the NeRAIN website, and you'll click on data entry, and you'll click on daily precipitation, and then you'll input that value in the form. The required thing, there are several items here. First of all, you want to make sure you have the right rain gauge. Most people have just one rain gauge. I've got 2 rain gauges that I run. One of them is simply for demonstration purposes. And this month I have not put in any rainfall on the demo gauge at all. We typically ask folks to report around 7 a.m., but anywhere within a couple of hours of that. In other words, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. would still give us results that are comparable from location to location across the site. And the main item then is top left corner, measured precipitation. We're looking for the rain or melted snow as measured by your rain gauge. In our case, we earlier measured 1.2 inches of rain. So I'm going to input 1.2. And now I'm going to hit the check button. And you can see that, number one, it completely filled that inner tube to 1 inch depth. So when this is up to the 1.00 line, that is 1 inch of rain in this gauge. And then it overfilled it just a little bit. So when we had it full of water, there was a little less than 1/4 inch swirling around. And when we measured that out into the graduated cylinder, we ended up with 1.2 inches of rain. There are several other items that can be really helpful for people looking at the rainfall records. And number one is going to be the comments. If you have any comments, such as my comment would be that there was a lot, so I'm going to put in a lot of wind and thunder all night. It felt like all night. It wasn't, but it certainly woke me up this morning. And that's all I'm going to do for April 16, 2024. Submit, and we're done. Let's take a look at the maps within NeRAIN. We are lucky in that last night we got quite a bit of rain across central and eastern Nebraska. And so we see quite a few colors here. I see one or two that are green, and so just above 3 inches there. However, around Lincoln, where my gauge is, precipitation value of 1 inch. It's quite a bit. 0.38. It is absolutely astounding how variable rainfall can be. If you have any questions about the NeRAIN program, if you'd like to get involved as a volunteer, or if you'd like to work with a local group that would like to volunteer as a group, for example, a group of gardeners or a school classroom or other situations like that, please get in touch with us. There are several people that can help you at the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources, and the best way to get in touch is by email at dnr.nebraska.gov. That's dnr.nebraska.gov. Or you can call our general line at 402-471-2363, and they will connect you with somebody that can help you with the NeRAIN program. Looking forward to working with you.